Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's presentation as part of the ABA LTRC Industry Insight webinar series. The topic this time is QuickBooks Essentials for Lawyers. Speaking today will be Erica Bursler and Karen Schwartz. Karen Schwartz founded Time & Sense Consultants, LLC to help legal and other service professionals select, install, and get the most out of their practice management, billing, accounting, and other firm-specific technologies. She works to allow companies to better manage their time, money, and information through the practical and efficient use of their software. She is an expert in billing, case, and practice management systems. By understanding a firm's practice, business, and industry needs, she can help implement a solution that meets any practice's requirements. Erica Bursler is the Manager of Customer Success at CosmoLex, developers of a cloud-based legal billing and trust accounting system specifically designed for solo and small law firms. Erica holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration and 5 years of experience in the legal software industry, catering to the specialized technology needs of small to mid-sized law firms. She's given numerous presentations on legal technology, such as law practice technology management, cloud computing, and legal billing and trust accounting compliance. The Industry Insight webinar series is hosted by the ABA Legal Technology Resource Center. To stay updated on upcoming webinars or view previous videos, please visit ambar.org/industryinsight. You can also stay updated on legal technology news through our blog, www.lawtechnologytoday.org. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll now begin the webinar.
Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are, and welcome. I am going to be talking about making the most of your firm's money using your time and billing software. Little bit about me, but basically there is no one best solution for everyone. QuickBooks will work for many firms, but it's not always the best. There are a lot of alternatives. You could be using a shoebox, you can use Microsoft Office, you can use generic software or individual solutions. There's limits to all of these. With generic software, you don't have trust accounting, because generic software does not understand the concept of trust accounting. That's a legal specific concept. When you use separate solutions, you're doing double entry. Obviously, with a shoebox and manual entry, it's very hard to get reports that are timely to know how your firm is doing. And if you don't have timely information, you really can't make adjustments to your business in an effective and efficient manner. And with Excel and Word, you have the same issue of trying to manage your information. It's a little bit better than manual, but you still have reporting issues. If you use industry-specific software that is integrated, it has trust accounting, it has all the features you need, and it will avoid the double entry problems and be very specific for the work that you need to do. What are some of the legal industry needs that, I'm talking about? Well, it's the ability to track hard and soft costs. For those not familiar with it, hard costs are those things that you write a physical check for. So when you pay a marshal out of your operating account, that is a hard cost. Soft costs are those things that you may pay on behalf of a client or bill a client for, but you're not actually writing a physical check directly for that expense. So, for example, if you charge the clients for postage that you might spend on their behalf, or for copies that you might make within the office, you may write a check to the copier vendor or to the post office for the stamps, but you don't write a check specifically for the postage or the copies for that one client. And those are considered soft costs. Law firms have to track hourly rates of different types. They may have bill codes of different types. If you are doing electronic billing, you're going to have different kinds of bill codes. You may have different types of fee arrangements, whether it's contingency billing or flat fees that you want to track. You may also want to track unbillable time so that you can understand your productivity a little bit better. In terms of your billing contacts, you may want to show your firm logo on the bill and your firm information. You may want to total the bill in different ways. Some firms total the bills based on who did the work. Others may total the bill based on the type of work being done. different clients and different types of practices have different needs. You also want to be able to show the trust activity on the invoice, and to track it very carefully, and to make sure that you are not overdrafting a particular client's trust balance. You may also want to put retainer replenishment requests on the invoice so that the client will refill their retainer in a timely manner. And all of these things are things that can be done in a generic software program, but they're much easier to do in an industry-specific software program. So the legal industry needs are for IOLTA accounting, which is very sensitive, as I'm sure you are all aware, and making sure that you don't overdraft a client's specific IOLTA balance. Generic software may or may not track whether you are overdrafting a bank account. I mean, you can usually see it on a report, but you can't tell, but it won't stop you from overdrafting the account. But it also will not necessarily know a specific client's balance and prevent you from doing something on a specific client. It also may or may not have specific types of billing arrangements that you might need for your firm, like flat fee or contingency type of billing as opposed to straight hourly billing. Some other needs that tend to be specific to the legal industry are in terms of the bill layout. Split billing, where you might enter time for one matter but want to bill it to multiples. For example, in a family law firm where you are representing the children and the bill gets split between each of the parents. You don't necessarily want to enter your time twice. You want to enter it once and have part of it be billed to the father and part of it be billed to the mother according to the agreement. And so if you are looking at software, you want to make sure that it can handle your needs. On the other hand, you might have a consolidated billing requirement where you have multiple matters for a single client, and you want to generate a bill that shows the individual matters and the billing on them, but also what is the total across all of the matters. You may also want to customize your bill layout to show specific types of information, and that might vary depending on the client. On some clients, you may want to show the hourly rate and the number of hours spent. On other clients, you may want to just show a total amount that's due. You may want a summary by staff in terms of how many hours they spent or what rate they charged. So being able to customize the bill and have that layout associated with the client so that you do not have to remember to change the layout when you generate the bills may be important for your firm. Fee allocation refers to how you are going to measure or allocate the revenue that you receive based on who did the work or based on who brought the matter in, so the originating attorney or the responsible attorney, and how is that revenue allocated for measuring performance, for paying your individual attorneys in your firm. Depending on what kind of fee structure you have for paying the people in your office, fee allocation may be more or less important. Many firms use just straight based on the work done, but other firms have different kinds of reporting. And so whatever solution you're looking at, you need to make sure that you can get the reports that you want out. Security is essential within a law firm. How much security you need and what types you need may vary. You may have certain matters where you need only certain people to be able to see those. You might need a Chinese firewall so that, only 3 attorneys in the firm can see what's going on specific matters. Or you may want to be able to have everyone in the office be able to see all the trust accounting, but no one except one or two key people able to go in and see the operating account information. Those kinds of security features vary across different programs, and you want to make sure that whatever program you choose meets your needs. Many of these things can be done in QuickBooks, but many of them cannot. For example, QuickBooks cannot really do split billing or consolidated billing. While you can customize the invoice in QuickBooks, you cannot assign the layout to the customer. So you have to make the decision of which layout you are going to use at the time you generate the bill, which you may or may not remember to change. QuickBooks does not do fee allocation, and it does, unless you're at the enterprise level, the security is very limited. At the enterprise level, you do have more security options, but you don't have the capability to segregate off a matter. Mobility is another issue. Whether you can, where can you access the data? So do you need a cloud-based solution, or do you want a desktop solution that maybe has some ability to access it from other places? Maybe you want to set up a remote desktop environment so that you can get into your data from outside the office. But what kinds of access do you need to it? And that may depend on the type of firm you are. If you are a firm where the attorneys are mostly in the office, mobility may be less important to you. I'm picking on QuickBooks today, but I could be picking on any generic accounting solution. QuickBooks is the best known and most widely used. And it's easy to find people who know QuickBooks. But when you are looking at QuickBooks, you need to understand whether the person knows QuickBooks and do they understand legal firm requirements. Many people understand QuickBooks but don't really understand the legal firm requirements, especially when it comes to IOLTA accounting and things like that, and may not set things up correctly. So it's important to really know what the person that you may be hiring knows and understands. When it comes to legal accounting versus QuickBooks, QuickBooks cannot prevent over withdrawal of a specific client's account. It just doesn't get that concept. You can set up reports to track the individual balances for clients, and you can track the total balance of your records versus the amount in your bank account, but it is reports that you must set up and that you are responsible for checking and maintaining. Legal-specific software will usually prevent you from withdrawing more money from a specific client account than is available in that client's account. Also, QuickBooks can create the reports for double or triple reconciliation that most bar associations require, but it is up to you to create those reports. They are not built into the program. Someone who knows QuickBooks and who understands legal accounting can create those reports, and once they are created, they are not hard to run, but it is multiple reports that you need to do in order to maintain the information. Some of the other things that you want to consider when you are looking at legal billing software versus QuickBooks is do you need to do electronic billing? QuickBooks doesn't really understand AE&L codes or whatever other electronic billing requirements you might have. So you would need add-on software in order to meet those needs. Do you send your bills via email? QuickBooks can send bills via email, but it may not be the level of security on the email that you want. So you have to be aware of that. Do you charge interest? And what kind of interest do you need to charge, and can QuickBooks calculate it properly? Split billing, as I mentioned earlier, QuickBooks doesn't do split billing. You can do it manually, but it's not something that's built in. What kinds of requests do your clients need for reporting or other information or on their bill, and can you make the bill look the way you want? Another very big one that a lot of firms are not aware of when it comes to QuickBooks is the allocations. I mentioned earlier fee allocations, and that QuickBooks can't really measure originating and responsible and that kind of thing. But there's another big issue when it comes to allocations, and that is that QuickBooks allocates revenue on a proportional basis. And what I mean by that is when you generate a bill in QuickBooks, if it includes fees and costs, and then the client pays a partial payment on the bill, QuickBooks will allocate that payment proportionately. Most law firms want to first reimburse advanced client costs and then apply the revenue to expenses, and QuickBooks cannot do that. So I've hit on a lot of these, but if you look at the limitations of QuickBooks, the billing arrangement is assigned at the time you generate the bill. So if you need different bill arrangements for different clients, you need to do that when you generate the bill, and you need to remember which client gets which arrangement. We can't really do consolidated billing or split billing. There are some limitations in what you can see on the bill layout. For example, when you enter time in QuickBooks, while you enter it and it has the timekeeper name on it, there is no way to automatically show that timekeeper on the bill. Batch billing in QuickBooks is very limited and generally not usable by clients, so you're really billing your clients one at a time, and if you have a large busy practice, that makes it easy to miss billing a specific client. And there are no draft bills. Once you generate a bill, it is done, and if there is an item on that that you want to remove, you can remove it to move it to another client or something else. However, you have to go back into that item and manually change it to be billable again. So QuickBooks puts it on the bill, marks it as billed, and does not unmark it. There's also some limitations to the sorting capability in QuickBooks and the ability to put in automatic subtotals. There's limits on the rate flexibility depending on what version of QuickBooks you are using. So if you have fairly complicated rate structures, QuickBooks may not work for you. An industry-specific solution will usually have more flexibility in that area. In addition, there is no easy way to show trust activity on an invoice. You would generate a separate report and attach it to your invoice. So think about whether QuickBooks can meet your needs. You can set up reports to show client activity, but it is not an automatic client ledger that is fully inclusive. What kinds of reports do you need of attorney time, productivity, again, the fee allocation? So whenever you are evaluating whether it is QuickBooks or any software, these are some of the things you really want to look at carefully, because it's much easier to spend more time up front thinking about your needs and making the right choice than to change afterwards. A lot of people ask me about QuickBooks Online versus QuickBooks Desktop. Well, there is definitely the convenience of the cloud, and it offers the mobility, but you have the same limitations in terms of bill layouts, actually even more so. If you are going to integrate with a practice management solution, you want to make sure what it works with, because some of them work with QuickBooks Online, but many of them integrate with QuickBooks Desktop. In addition, with QuickBooks Online, it does do what Intuit refers to as backup, but that is they can restore the data if their servers fail or something else, but you cannot call Intuit and say, gee, I really messed something up and I'd like to go back to yesterday's data or last week's data. There is no backup restore capability. The reporting is also somewhat more limited than in QuickBooks Desktop. So it's something to consider, but you want to be careful in evaluating online versus desktop because they are different. Think about what do you need in terms of security, how granular you need it to be, the mobility, and what solutions you need. So you may want to look at legal specific solutions because they give you control over the IOLTA account and easily prepare the detailed reports that you may need. If you use an integrated practice management, billing, and accounting solution, then you don't have to worry about double data entry or import-export capabilities. Makes it a little bit easier to support and maintain and easier to train because it is one interface and things look the same. And you don't have to worry about something getting missed and a report not being correct. Now, sometimes I get people that say, but my accountant wants QuickBooks. Well, you can talk to the accountant about the benefits of the legal specific solution to the firm. And then there are options you can give the accountant for accessing the data. If it's a cloud-based solution, well, they can log in and use it. You could also set up remote access for them. Some cloud-based solutions or desktop solutions do offer an accountant's version. And most of the time I find that if we educate the accountant properly on why the solution that we are considering is better for the firm, they will go along with it. And that's really a benefit for the firm because the firm is going to have the solution that works best for them. So those are some of the things you want to think about in choosing an accounting solution and thinking about whether you want an integrated solution or whether you want to use QuickBooks and then choose something else for your practice management solution. I'm now going to turn it over to Erica, who is going to talk a little bit about what CosmoLex can do for you.
Great. Thank you so much, Karen. Okay, so Karen did a great job of explaining what QuickBooks can and cannot do, and I do think that that is absolutely essential just from an education standpoint. We're all familiar with the software, but we're working with an individual industry here that has very specific requirements, so I think that was a great presentation on Karen's part. Now, what I'm going to be focusing on is what we consider the 5 pillars of practice management. What needs to be inclusive in possibly one program to get everything done for you? And this is that legal specific solution that we'll be talking about. So here you have your billing, your business accounting, your trust accounting, and also your practice management, your calendaring, your tasks, your documents. All of this interact with each other very frequently. And of course, the main focal point is the matter, whether you're scheduling a client meeting, pulling up a document, entering a time entry, or even just posting a client cost. It's very crucial that these functions work hand in hand and are centered around the matter. So this is what this is going to be just a quick overview of what you can accomplish, many of the items that Karen actually addressed, while using an all-in-one legal specific solution, which is what CosmoLex is. So I will be using the CosmoLex software, which is a cloud-based practice management software with fully integrated accounting as well. So I'll use that to demonstrate some of the points that Karen brought up to be legal specific obstacles for many firms. Okay, so I'm going to go along, like I said, just a few items that we talked about are legal specific. So the first thing, we'll talk about billing. When you're dealing with your billing, there are a lot of legal specific requirements. First off is you need to be able to set up hourly, fixed fee, contingency type of billing. And here you'll see I am in my Matter tab. I have all of my matters listed here, and just to the left you could see I have either hourly, fixed fee, or contingency. So you can set up your contingency percentage, you can have a fixed fee and also track your time for internal purposes, and that's something that law firms use quite frequently. Another item with billing is, let's say you're entering a time card. You of course need to have, or I selected a fixed fee matter of course, you of course need to have your individual timekeepers and the ability to set different rates for these timekeepers. So in our system you can set up 8 rates per timekeeper, and of course that will affect the rate that gets populated down here, but you also can set a matter-specific rate, which is very common. You have a special agreement with somebody or it's a certain situation, you can just set a rate that will override all of those things. Another interesting fact is the shorthands, being able to just type in a certain phrase or code and populate any sort of phrase or writing that may be consistent with all of your different entries. Big time saver, of course, but it's definitely helpful, especially if you have a paralegal or secretary, somebody who might be entering the items for you, keeps everything consistent. And I do think for time cards, one of the most popular functions here, and is very common in law firms, is being able to make something no charge. This is pretty much your way of saying, hey, I want the client to see the item on the invoice, but I also want them to see that I'm waiving it for them. And that's a very popular option, and to be able to just set it here and know that it will show up on the invoice with the amount of 0 is very popular amongst many of our customers. Now, in terms of generating invoices, as you're entering your time, expense, all of that, of course, adds up your unbilled balance. And these 4 balances are essential to any law firm. And to be able to have this in front of you is key, to see what's owed, to see what your work in progress is, to see any retainers you have on hand. And I'll talk a little bit about the trust accounting, which plays a big role here, but having these numbers right in front of you is key to running your practice most effectively. So in regards to billing, you have your unbilled balance and then you want to go ahead and bill for it. Well, 2 things to bring up. First is, of course, you have all your different templates. You need to be able to have the flexibility of adding your logo, customizing it to the look and feel that you want. And right in our setup section here, we have a whole dedicated section to editing your invoice templates. So you can view the various base templates we have, you can add on top of that, make any particular changes that you want, upload your logo, whatever the case may be, you can make those changes here. Now when generating the invoice, you're going to want to hopefully be the most efficient about that. And that comes down to doing bulk actions. So if I go to this Activities tab and I go to Invoices, here I can generate invoices in bulk. And what's really interesting is certain settings which many law firms need, like I want to generate my invoices based off of the billing method I'm doing, or by matter owner. Maybe I only want to generate the invoices for Jane Smith right now. Perhaps I'm the paralegal for Jane Smith. I could just do it in that batch, and it makes everything much more organized, especially if you have multiple attorneys. So you could do your batch invoicing. You can also do batch emailing. Send out all your invoices in one click, get everything out to your clients in a very efficient manner on your end, but they're still receiving a customized message from you with their individual invoice attached. Also your collections. That's a big one. Though collections is cumbersome, many people don't want to be involved in it, it is essential to running an effective law practice. So here we give you the option to pull up all of those clients that have overdue invoices. You can simply use this list to reach out to them by phone or letter, or you can send them an email notification straight from here that will let them know that they have an overdue invoice and again attach that invoice for them. So all of these are very important from the billing standpoint. When it comes to business accounting, a lot of what is valued in CosmoLex specifically is having that business accounting all in one system, so you actually don't need an outside accounting system. What happens is as you're doing your various transactions, maybe it's your business costs, it could be your matter costs, it could be retainers, invoice payments, at all of those points of contact, an entry is made on your general ledger. So instead of having to go into a separate software and make that entry, it's happening as you go. And 2 of the main examples of that are, and this is one that Karen mentioned, is entering hard costs. A hard cost is something that, let's say I go to the courthouse, I pay a $25 filing fee, and I need to seek reimbursement from my client. If I click on hard cost, you will see here that I am entering the out-of-pocket expense let's say the $25 fee to the courthouse. So this is me entering the check or entry wire, whatever it may be, from my business account. And then I'm posting an expense card to that matter in the same exact step. So this will not get lost in terms of forgetting to seek reimbursement. And the third thing here is the account is listed. This is the general ledger account. It's selected for me and I don't have any other options. I can't say that this is a income account. I can't say that this is some rent, travel, other type of business expense. If I'm saying it's a hard cost, that means it's a matter cost and it needs to be recorded as such. Of course, we have various accounting settings to set these defaults for you. Another time that accounting plays a role is definitely with the payment of your invoices. This is what we discovered is the biggest struggle for attorneys in terms of complying with legal accounting requirements in general accounting software. So if I pull up a paid invoice, and this is an invoice that I just applied a payment. I made sure that this has some fee, some expense, a whole bunch of items on here. And I'm going to show you the allocation. And Karen touched upon that a little bit as well. And all an allocation is taking that invoice payment and making the proper accounting entries. What portion's fee, what portion is cost, what portion is discount. And when I look at the screen, you're going to see everything that was on this invoice. I had fees, which is time cards, costs could be your expense cards, late fees, on and on. I applied one payment. These entries were made for me. Because the accounting and the billing are together, the accounting portion knows what my invoice was made up of. It knows that I entered this as a hard cost or a soft cost. It knows that I entered this as a particular type of fee income and can therefore do a lot of those allocations for me. Normally, you would have to make an entry in your billing system and then go to your accounting system and somebody would have to make the decision of, okay, I need to make these 5 or 6 entries. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is trust accounting. So that is not only very important in terms of compliance and making sure that you're well prepared come audit time, but also it's completely specific to law firms. No general software is ever going to cover trust accounting, and even many legal specific softwares don't cover trust accounting. So you need to make sure that certain safeguards are in place. First being, when I'm on that matter page, like I mentioned, I have this individual ledger amount. I can see at all times what funds I have for a particular ledger. You're not just responsible for knowing what's in the bank account. You need to know each individual matter's balance. And that is something that most general softwares don't do. Also, overdrafting on a ledger. Karen mentioned this as well. In this scenario, let's say for this matter, if I wanted to cut a $6,000 check, any other software, any generic especially, is going to allow you to do that because you have money in the bank. There's no issues. You're not overdrafting on the bank balance, but you're not supposed to overdraft on that individual ledger either. So for trust-specific reasons, and since we're legal-specific software, we can actually block you from overdrafting on that ledger. And the last factor, especially for your trust accounting, is being able to do your reconciliation. So of course you could do your full reconciliation in the system. You're comparing your bank and book balance. You can even import your bank statements to do it even quicker. And at the end of all that, of course, the essential part is not just making sure everything matches, but having the proper reporting on hand. You need to be able to give to an auditor what's called a 3-way reconciliation report so that they can ensure that your trust books are handled properly. If I go to the reporting section here, in addition to my accounting and my billing reports, I have here the 3-way reconciliation report. Now, what this 3-way check is taking your bank balance, your book balance, and also all the individual client ledgers. You may have 500 clients with money in trust. Well, you'll have to add up all of those and make sure that they add up to the same number. So by having a report that does that for you, not only is it a big time saver, but it's highly trusted by the auditor because they know the system, it's all working based off of the system. So this is something that's just provided straight out of the box. So these are just a couple examples of what a legal specific solution, which includes accounting, has to offer. So with that, let me just go right back to the wrap-up of the presentation. So For today's attendees only, we do know that everybody's setup is a little bit different, and if you want to learn a little bit about our legal specific solution, we have this offer to have 20 appointments available with our consultant, and if you'd like to take advantage of this, just email a request to consult@cosmolex.com, and be sure to include a specific date and time. And what we will do is if you do take us up on this offer, we will include an extra gift, which is a legal specific chart of accounts. Chart of accounts typically are very generic in most accounting softwares, but there are items that are needed for law firms specifically, so we will include that as well. So I'll just leave this on the screen for a moment for anybody to jot down the information. Again, email consult@cosmolex.com, include a specific date and time, and take us up on our offer for a one-on-one conversation with our consultant.